thrilled about the guest that we have. Why? Because this woman is near and dear to my heart. She has become an incredible friend and an amazing partner. And she is actually the woman that is working behind the scenes on every episode of Beauty Behind the Brand Live that you see. She's in the comments if you're on Facebook. She's engaging with you all. She's helping with everything production wise with this series. And I could not do it without her. So I am incredibly excited to introduce to you my friend, my sister, my production partner, co-executive producer of Beauty Behind the Brand Live and CEO of LMK Entertainment Group. Oh, that's a mouthful. Latasha Kennedy. Well, that didn't work.
Hi.
Latasha.
How's it
We're
going?
live, raw,
Yes.
unscripted,
It's all good.
unedited, and uncut. And you will find out who Latasha is in a minute. We are having, I don't know what it is. Like, we'll have everything set up, and there's sure to be one thing, like
Yeah.
one thing. I don't care what it is. Pick your one.
Yeah.
Every week, there seems to be some type of challenge with the tech. But here we are. We still show up. We still give you our all. And it's really a testament to um, just taking the leap and doing things, right, Latasha?
Yeah.
Um,
And
we
I think it's
want
not about
perfection. Yeah.
perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want perfection, in a perfect world, everything works seamlessly all of the time. But the reality is, we are content creators, producers, filmmakers, and we're doing something that's different. If you look just across the entertainment industry as a whole, pretty much every production from daytime to drama series, if they're not running reruns, they are doing remote production. And that is what Latasha and I have been doing. And so this is what you get. This is what you
It's
get.
all good.
But however, we do have something for you, and I'm going to go ahead and share it so we can give my girl a proper introduction. She
Aw.
definitely deserves that and so much more. So sit tight, and we're going to try this one more again, y'all. Okay. Ah, okay. I guess I have to share my desktop with y'all in order for it to happen.
She's like, y'all gonna see this video.
We're going to get it.
Welcome to live, y'all.
Tasha,
They don't want the video is not gonna play, sis. It's okay.
it's going to play. But we're not going to hold the people. What we are going to do is
No.
get into this conversation. And instead of a commercial break, we're going to have a Latasha break. All right.
I love it. Let's improvise.
How are you, my love?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing
That's
really good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in. We will be checking your comments. Hold your questions until the end. We will have a Q&A with Latasha, but let's get into it. Latasha is a filmmaker, screenwriter, producer, director, and actress. And as I said before, the CEO and founder of LMK Entertainment Group. And she's a phenomenal woman. I'm not just saying that because we're working together. She is just a vast resource of just knowledge and information and talent and skills. And so I'm excited to talk to her today about how she is using art for activism, shifting the conversation and the culture through storytelling, filmmaking, and television production series. So let's get into it. Latasha.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us how you got started in the entertainment industry. What was your journey like?
Oh, my journey started as a child because I was super shy. And so my mom put me in ballet and it just stuck. I was, really, really excited about being in dance class. And I didn't, take to my teacher so much in the beginning because I was so shy, but I eventually, got accustomed to her. And then before you know it, she really helped groom me as a dancer. And then throughout my academic career, I just explored other avenues, singing, dancing, public speaking, and so by the time I went to college, I was ready to, I felt like I knew what I wanted to do. So I majored in theater, but the school I went to required that even though you were a performance major, that you still had to learn how to write, hang lights, and do all those things. And even though I didn't want to do that, I only wanted to focus on performance. I am actually very grateful for those opportunities because I feel like they definitely serve as a foundational uh, groundwork for me in the work I do now.
I love that. And why, like, you could do anything, right? You started out as acting, but what was the shift for you that said, you know what, I really want to dig more into storytelling and get behind the camera? We know that that can be like a really impactful and powerful place to be,
Mhm.
because you have so much freedom to tell different stories. But what was your journey like for that? Like, what was the decision for you to say, you know what, I'll still flow in front of the camera, but it's time for me to get behind the camera and do some things?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, even though I really wanted to do performance as an actor and be on the stage, because I was a theater geek, I chose to really lean into writing and into directing. Right at, even when I was in college. So, because of the college I went to, there was a lot of race issues on campus. And so I had built community with, a number of people that were at my school, but I took the opportunity to create a piece that spoke directly from me and my experience as a senior for my senior project. And that sort of like opened up my opportunity to start putting my stories out there and sharing them in sort of like a courageous and unapologetic kind of way. And you get questions like, is it really that bad? And, do you really feel like it's necessary to write this and have this be your senior project? But for me, I felt like this is my voice, this is my experience, and I don't need you to necessarily validate it, but I do need to speak what is true to me.
Mhm.
So it started then. And then I decided to go back to my community for the first 4 years out of school to really help navigate, or rather, help young people navigate and process certain things that were happening in their lives through art. And I found a lot of fulfillment and a lot of joy out of that. So even though I've only really started filmmaking in terms of being a director behind the camera, I've been telling my own stories in and through my career, for several years. And I think what helped me make the pivot about 3 or 4 years ago was just that I realized that I was not having as much fun with the process of auditioning. I wasn't having as much fun telling other people's stories. And it was, a part of what you're supposed to do, but I just wasn't really enjoying it anymore. And so I really wanted to tell my own stories. I really wanted to have the freedom to create and create in a way that was meaningful to me and that would empower and impact, a generation and our culture. So that's pretty much, what happened. And so I just leaned into the skills that was necessary in order to do that and do that with excellence in the same way that I leaned into the skills that were necessary to be a working actor. So,
I love that. I love that. And people don't get that. We have these transferable skills, right?
yeah.
And sometimes we had a guest several weeks ago, Paula
Mhm.
Bryant Ellis, and she was talking about her pivot
Yeah.
and how even, it seemingly was like two very vastly different things where she worked in finance and then went into the entertainment industry as a director. And she talked about how those skills are transferable. And sometimes we don't take the time to take inventory to really
Correct.
look at how one skill set has prepared us and will help us to really shine in another area.
Sure.
So you're a wife and a
Yeah,
mom. You have an anniversary coming up
I
next
do.
month.
I do.
How how do you balance, if there is such a thing?
Mm,
How do you balance being in the entertainment industry, because it is a lot of work,
yeah.
right? How do you balance still making sure that your family gets enough, attention and time from you as a wife and a mother? And how has your family impacted your art of storytelling?
Yeah, interestingly, first of all, my husband is just super supportive. And so when he met me and thought I was, all that and wanted to get married, I was very clear, like, this is who I am. I'm an artist, I'm an entertainer. I want to, I don't know all of what I want to do, but right now I want to go back to theater. And right now I want to do this. And he was just like, okay, girl, like, whatever you're into, no big speeches necessary, right? So I appreciated that. But along the way, I think, I also became a mother very early in our marriage, and so my entire career, really, as an entertainer, has been as a wife and a mom. And I think the thing that has helped me has just been priorities and values. And I've always started there. So I've never really started with what I want per se in terms of, oh, I'm trying to, go to Hollywood and make it big. That was never really like the goal. The goal was to be able to create meaningful work, even as an actor. I
Mhm.
wanted to be in shows that I believed in, and stuff like that. And so for me, it was about priorities and it was about values. And that's actually what helps me navigate the land, so to speak. I don't say yes to everything. I don't go everywhere that I might be expected to be, just because everyone else is there. I really start with family and I start with priorities. So, for example, tend to shift things around my oldest son who plays basketball, and basketball season is super intense. We're traveling all over the state with him, and I want to be there. Like, he's not going to be 12 years old playing basketball all his life, and I want to be able to have those type of memories. So I've sort of just resign that I'm not going to be able to do it all at the same time. Sure,
Mhm.
I have big dreams and want to do more and kind of feel like I'm just really getting started. But I also feel like I have this really dynamic life over here that's so full of joy and memories and really meaningful to me. So, but in terms of the work that's required of me, that's where a team environment in my home comes in. So I refer to my family as Camp Kennedy. And I lay it down really thick in terms of what my expectations are with my children and with my man, because I can't do it all, right? It all has to get done. Everybody's got to have some clean clothes. Everybody's got to eat. Everybody's got to get back and forth to school, right? But I can't do it all. And I used to get teased really, really bad for like contracting out. It's still in the budget, but if I can't do all of the loads of laundry, I'm gonna find me a wash and fold. Okay. If I can't like cook all the meals, or if I can't get to the grocery store, I'm gonna order them groceries. And I've never defined myself based on how well I do domestic chores,
Mhm.
right? They have to get done. Everybody wants to live in a clean home, but my kids are able, right? My husband is able. And there's certain expectations also in terms of schoolwork and taking ownership for, you know, work that has to get done. So when I'm traveling, I shouldn't be getting notes from your teacher that you didn't do the work that was assigned to you because mommy was out of town. That's unacceptable, right? So we set really clear boundaries and expectations for the children. My husband and I talk often about how our needs may be changing, or what our expect or what not our expectations but our needs are, and we do everything we can to support each other. So it's the balance just comes from having help, My friends are beautiful and call me a superwoman or super mom with my cape, right?
Mhm.
But truthfully, it's my family, it's my village, it's my husband, it's the constant conversation with my kids about the fact that it's not always about them.
Mhm.
It's not always about me, right? And that it's not always fun. Like this idea that we have to always subscribe to fun is just not going to work. So we really negotiate what the roles are at different times as is needed. And it's just been really helpful. Like we all show up for each other when
Mhm.
it's the other person's time to shine.
I love that because it
Yeah.
is teamwork makes the dream work, and
Yeah.
we are a team. We're going to be digging in a little bit about the impact of what's going on in our world today. And you talked about, everyone knowing their roles and making sure that everyone is stepping up to the plate to do what they need to do. And we know sometimes our intentions or the reality of what that looks like is different from maybe the next person's reality. And so your husband works in the medical field.
Yeah.
What has that been like for you with COVID-19 going on, and having a spouse who's working in the medical field and having to be away from him for
Yeah.
periods of time, and
Mhm.
then also just the impact of that on the projects that you had already had in production at the time?
Yeah, yeah. The thing about having, my husband is a attending physician, and he has definitely had several interactions with COVID patients, and it is nerve wracking. It's scary. It's all the things that you can imagine that it would be, and we've had to be very vocal and honest and authentic with each other and with the kids on an age appropriate level, of course, about what COVID was, what daddy's role was, and how we would be moving in and around our home as a result of him having to serve in this way. And we just came up with a plan. Unfortunately, the medical profession, the healthcare system, it wasn't as proactive as they could have been. And so my husband just took it upon himself to create a plan. Everything from, not being in street clothes and going back to scrubs and changing and, near the garage and things of that nature, just to sort of minimize the possibility of us also being exposed to COVID. He wears a mask, around the home when he is, having to go back and forth to the hospital. And the real blessing has been that, he hasn't gotten sick. He's been able to be helpful. He's been able to show up in more ways than he's been expected to. But God has just really kept his health, and that's the thing that I'm most grateful for. And it's something that I really don't take for granted. But as you know, COVID didn't just impact, doctors. It also impacted the school system and stuff like that. And so my kids, like all kids, were home, trying to be home, me trying to homeschool them. And I have to say, that was hard. That was really, really hard. And me and my kids agree. It's challenging because it's not like we got exposed to the homeschool system, sort of like, oh, try this. You're also still gonna have your village, you're still gonna have grandma and grandpa, you're still gonna be able to do the extracurricular activities. We're just gonna, teach them from home. And my oldest son has 8 teachers. My youngest son, just had his one, but I'm telling you, I was in there teaching science class, math. I don't even understand Common Core math. So like there was a whole celebration when I would get the problem correct. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. But again, more memories. And we still were kept by God, and continue to be like held in his hands, throughout this entire process. So I have nothing but gratitude and absolute just gratitude for the fact that throughout a difficult, season, that we were able to be helpful, we were able to be a light, in that difficult time.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And listen, don't be fooled, folks. She was ready to throw some kids out. She was going to send them to me.
I love my kids. I love my kids.
You love your kids, but honey, and two boys, no less. I just have
My
the one
mom
boy.
even was teasing me, Elle, because she called me the hall monitor, the principal, the middle school counselor, the cafeteria lady, and they're both of my boys are so like beautifully sensitive, right? Like the way they're wired, but also it works against us because they just go from 0 to 100 really, really quick, right? So my youngest is, falling apart. He's having a meltdown. Meanwhile, the oldest is talking to himself because of something going on with the Zoom class. I mean, it was just drama. We got through it, and everybody's got some good grades. Those are my grades, and I told them I want something special because I
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. And if there's any parents on here, then you feel the pain that Latasha is talking about because all our worlds were just turned upside down.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
we all became teachers and educators in some shape, fashion, or form.
Yeah.
And all the other titles that your mom said.
But yes, my mom loves to like tease me about that. But to your point, in terms of the work that I was doing as an artist, there were some things that I just had to stop doing because I have learned how to understand what my capacity is. And my life had changed so drastically that there really wasn't room for certain things. So whereas like I was, with that time of year, I would lean more into voiceover work. That was not an option. There was no room in my life to get a random need for an audition for voiceover work to send. And to some, it might not be a problem. For me, I just knew my plate was already full enough. That I didn't have any more room. So I just put a pin in that area of work that I do. And I'm okay with that. I have no regrets about that. So yeah.
I love that. And you are diverse. Like you're able to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, on the mic. Yeah. And so when you are well-rounded and are able to contribute to not just storytelling, but to the culture, which is what we're going to get into. And I can't wait to talk to you about a heart-wrenching piece that you've recently produced. Oh. And we're going to do that when we come back from this short commercial break. Latasha Kennedy is a wife, mom, and award-winning filmmaker with a commitment to creating socially relevant content that celebrates Black women on the rise and explores the journeys of young families raising next-generation leaders. Currently, she is developing scripted and unscripted content for television, film, and new media through her production company, LMK Entertainment Group. This beauty is fierce, fearless, and completely unapologetic in building a brand committed to excellence and doing it for the culture. I told you. We would not.
That was nice.
I'm not gonna let this episode end without giving my girl her flowers and her just due. She works so incredibly hard. Like I said, there would be no Beauty Behind the Brand live docu-series if it were not for this incredible woman. We bounce ideas off of each other. We literally are sometimes there's a 3-hour difference, and sometimes we're on the phone for 3 hours. Yeah. We recently had a 3-hour long conversation. She's also the woman who is reeling me back in. So if you saw me last week, I might have been a little unhinged.
That's what you have to do.
To some of our viewers, and Latasha was the one that was talking me through some things. It was a rough start for the beginning of last week's episode. But again, I'm unapologetic in it. You're going to always get me. And sometimes that is not, the best picture.
It's
So
all
it's
good.
all good. Yes, yes. So we can't have this conversation about the power of storytelling and really creating change and talking about family and the impact that family has on the work that we do without discussing the current state of our society, our communities, our world.
Yeah,
And that is, we are on the heels of uh, witnessing a horrific tragedy and murder, uh, and losing a brother in community, George Floyd. And you did something, you and I were in conversations, and it was almost like our work just came to a halt, like a screeching halt. And
yeah.
we both felt really paralyzed in not being able to create or do much of anything. And so I want you to talk to us a little bit about what you decided to do to try to navigate through that and open up the doors for healing for yourself.
I think that one of the most difficult things about the last 2 weeks, I mean, it's really been brewing, right? Ever since, even with Amy Cooper, discussions about Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud, and then George Floyd. And for me, it was just really hard to process. It was really hard to process one traumatic event after the next. And then to also have to, look in the face of my sons and try to give some context to what was happening without totally freaking them out. And so I reached out to my producing partner, LMK, and I was just like, I just want to make something. And she said, do it, girl, do it, And I was like, okay. But at the time, I didn't really know what to do. And so I just started writing. And, when I wrote something that I felt was helped me to say what I needed to say, then I just took it a step further and created a video and shared it last week. And it was cathartic. It's not everything, but it's one piece to this huge puzzle and mass confusion that we're trying to sift through in terms of this understanding of why this is hard. Why is it hard to see African Americans as human beings? Why we have to keep creating demands and lists and quietly protesting or loudly protesting about this. So for me, art just helps me say what I need to say the way I want to say it. And that's what I did through my video last week.
And then talk to us about what that video was. What was
So
it?
it's called No More Names.
Mhm.
And I had just become super infuriated with the fact that you have people who are pouring their whole lives into raising children and giving everything they have for their babies and, wanting to just have of just normal family. I just want to enjoy my kids. I just want to, see my son go off to college, or I'm so happy my son is taking care of himself and getting a job. And it's like, we can't even do the basic things without there being some fear. Even now, my son, 12, tall, handsome, loves hoodies, right? It's like this pause to help him understand without totally clouding his youth and his innocence, right? About how people see him and giving him some perspective about how to carry himself in the world. It's ridiculous. It really is. But I created the video called No More Names because I was sick of hashtags. I was just really sick of seeing beautiful Black men reduced to a hashtag. And I just felt like their lives have more purpose. And it's not to say that, I mean, George Floyd has helped to erupt a sense of urgency for us to solve these problems and to create solutions that are long-standing and sustainable. But still, before him, there are so many names that my film couldn't even fit. It would take too much time. And that is the part that for me is beyond hurtful, that I can look at your son, my son, and we wonder, is it gonna be a hashtag? Like it's just like it's too much. And I feel like we can't all play the same role, but we all have a role to play. And my role, I really believe, is our activism because it is necessary to disrupt and to interrupt some conversations and ways of thinking with a clear message about what we want and the fact that we want it right now. So, will it take time? It will. But it's like I've been an artist this long. I'll continue to be an artist that has something to say. And I think that that has always been something that I identify with. That is not just about me. I'm not giving gifts just for me. They're for somebody else. So I will use them, to amplify a message that is simply we are human too, and we want to be treated that way. It's not hard. I don't need a kente cloth. I don't need you to do no theatrics. I just need you to hear that all we want is to be seen as human beings. That's not why it's hard. So yeah. So I that was just one of many. I intend to create and activate artists on a regular basis to be able to tell our stories together and be able to use art in a way that can create real change.
Okay. I love it. It was definitely a gut wrenching short film to watch. You have to check it out. Just follow Latasha or LMK Entertainment Group on all social media platforms, and you will see her short film, No More Names. If you can't find her, it's also on my social media platforms. And it is a short but very impactful and powerful piece of, I don't want to call it content because I feel like I'm deducing the impact of what it really is. But, you and I and so many others have had people within their community, non-Black people in their community reaching out and asking, how do we fix this? What do we do? So, as creators, as storytellers, filmmakers, what are the first steps that we need to take to be able to leverage our skill set and our platforms and our talent to be able to quelch and destroy racial injustice and social economic inequality? What do we
Yeah,
have to do?
I think that is the thing that it's going to take more than me to answer. Um, as an artist, I definitely identify with the need to create work that is powerful, impactful, compelling, disruptive. Um, but that's not the only thing that I can do as an artist, right? That's my primary lane. But I'm also as an artist looking for ways to help organizations tell their story, right? Because as we know, video is everything, right? So we have social media, and that definitely helps us to amplify our message. But within social media, there's also video. And we also know that video is an incredible component to use to be able to get messaging out and to be able to say something succinctly and empower and inspire and move people, to do stuff that's important. So perhaps that I know definitely lending my resources and my time has become a priority. Today, I pretty much spent the entire day on a 4-hour call having this conversation about what can we do. And I think we're still really trying to figure that out because you have to take a moment also to listen. And, we always get upset with people when they come out with reports and then we're like, oh, that wasn't even true. You speak so soon. I think we have to really listen. I need to understand a lot more than what I understand now so that I can craft stories that are, that are helpful for what we're trying to do, right? Even in the interest of saying things that are provocative, I still have meaning behind that. I'm not just trying to, rock your feathers for just for the fun of it. I'm really trying to make an impact in a way that is that's going to be sustainable. So I think other artists are going to be helpful to understanding how to do that, and we're sort of in the background having these conversations. I thought it was important to have something quickly that we can make that's short and snackable and that gives food for thought, if you will. But in terms of larger perspective, I mean, there's so many things to think about. Is the responsibility of the artist. Is it time for us to stop begging for a seat at the table? And is it now time for us to build our own table for real, for real? It's so many conversations to have. It's so many different ways to navigate this particular situation. I do feel like every artist has to identify what their lane is. Is it advocacy? Is it activism? Is it development? Like, where is your lane? And wherever your lane is, as an artist, you can absolutely use your voice, your skill, your talent to be able to help cultivate something that gets is moving and to the community that they're serving, right? So I think it's not just about me; it's really about all of us collectively in terms of what can we do to come together, and not you over here and me over here, but like, what are we doing together to move the needle forward? And I'm figuring that out. And I feel like, I'm eager to have something soon, like a solid, I'm going to do this, whether it's a new platform or whether it's, a new initiative, but I'm figuring it out.
And that's good. And that's the first step, right? We don't have all the answers. None of us do, but we wake up each day wanting to be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
Create something impactful. And in an era, we're in I almost want to call it the George Floyd era. We talked about this. It was like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, we've been dealing with this for years and years, and we see it time and time again. But this was different, and so now we're in this age of hashtag amplified melanated voices and hashtag share the mic now, and these are all very necessary, important initiatives, because it is a first step in the right direction. But we can't stop there. We've got to go beyond that. But talk to us a little bit about how important it is for Black voices to be amplified now. We know in this industry, we don't see it often, right?
It's always been important.
Yeah.
It has always been important for us to tell our own stories. And when I talk to other filmmakers, mind you, I've only been as a filmmaker in this space less than 5 years, right? I've been in the entertainment industry for over 15 years. But in the filmmaking space, I haven't occupied this space very long. However, I have come to see that there are several of my counterparts, whether aspiring or emerging or seasoned, who are constantly asking for permission to make their work. And as a Black person, I don't feel like I need to ask you for permission to make anything. And it doesn't matter to me that you don't understand what it's like, in my home. I can tell that story myself. I don't need your validation to tell my own story. So if you have 100 filmmakers who are Black and who are skilled and who are professional and who know how to tell a story, you're going to have 100 dynamic stories about the Black experience. And when you push that out, that's really quite phenomenal, right? So I think overall, I just want us as artists, as Black artists specifically, to get beyond a place where we feel like we have to ask for permission, or we have to take all this time to convince somebody else that they should green light our work, right? And I think that part of my process has been educating myself about other spaces I need to move in. I love filmmakers. I love being in filmmaker spaces, going to conferences that are solely for a filmmaker. But I will also be in a business course about how to engage an investor. I will also be, I'm trying to understand certain things about marketing, because there are all these different avenues that we all have to occupy as filmmakers, to not just tell the story, but make sure that people see it and make sure that the right people see it. And the right people are not Hollywood. The right people are our people. Because if we're telling a story that's important to the culture, then we need to make sure that we have the proper skills in place or people in place to ensure that our messages, our stories are told and shown and seen. And for those who have platforms that support Black stories, we need to get behind them and make sure that they have the money and the resources that they need, or at the very least our support to be able to move their agenda forward. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones showing our work.
Yeah.
So they may not be yet Netflix, they may not be yet Paramount, and they will never be if we don't actually get behind them and help them. Right? So it's not just so much about the value that you bring me, it's also about the value I give. And as a filmmaker, an artist, someone who has something to say, I'm not just trying to figure out what I have to say, I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say and how can I help you say it. And the biggest thing that I think is the most important thing, I think, is it starts with, I'm just gonna do it. So they don't like it. It's okay. Make something else. It's okay. Reshoot it. Right? Find a tribe and get people behind you who believe in your vision and who believe in you. And then have something to say. Have a vision. Right? Like, be okay with being a trailblazer. Be okay with people not, necessarily agreeing with everything that you have to say. It's okay. Like, nobody agrees with everybody all the time. But if that's your message, if that's what you're trying to say and share, you should share it. And at a time like this, when we need people to speak up and to speak loudly about the injustices and the fact that we are no longer singing kumbaya about it. We want change and we're going to figure it out. And we're going to offer something different to our own kids and our own lineage and legacy. Like, it's time now to make a film. And the things that I create, I don't even always create it with a whole team. Sometimes it's just me and my partner and an app. So there's absolutely no excuse. It's not even about money sometimes. It's just about the fact that we have been conditioned to think that we can't take one step without somebody saying it's okay. And that's not how we can move any longer. And there's no place for fear. And there's no place for, I don't know, just do it. Have a team that looks at your stuff and make sure that you're saying it the way you want to say it, right? There's nothing wrong with accountability. There's nothing wrong with building in other people in your space who are also like really skilled, who can help you have some checks and balances and can help you understand how to do what you do even better. But that still does not negate the fact that whatever you have to do and whatever you need to say, that now is the time. This is the time for every artist who has something to say it and how did they say? Speak it from the back of your throat. What they say? Yell it, say it loud. I don't know.
I know, say it with your chest.
From your chest. Yes, say it from your chest.
Say it with your chest. Now, I do know that.
Yes, do that.
It's so, there's so many different things, and you really just laid out like how we came to be in this project. We both are in entertainment and content creators and filmmakers and producers, but Latasha and I actually met after a virtual event that I was a speaker at, and it was a branding and marketing event. And we connected on Instagram. We scheduled a time to chat on video conference, and it was like we knew each other forever. And what she's talking about, and like, don't be afraid to just do it, just put it out, get you a team, even if it's just one other person.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes for anyone. You don't have to be a filmmaker or a content creator or an artist or storyteller. This is for anyone, whether you're a realtor, a medical professional, a therapist, whatever your lane is. When you know you have a vision for something, and more importantly, when you know you've been called to do something, you can't afford to sit on it. You can't afford to wait. You can't afford to let what you don't have or think you should have stop you, because if I would have done all of those things, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
Right. And, the person that's supposed to help you, that's already been called and assigned to help you, they're already there. They're already in position. They're just waiting on you. And when you appear, the yes is there. And that's what happened with Latasha and I. And so I'm really glad that you brought that up and really drove it home, because it's so super important. And it's not about waiting for someone else to
Yeah.
do it for you or to give you an opportunity. Just get out there and do it. And some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff you are going to learn along the way. And so
Yeah.
that's super duper important. Um, Gosh, I know there's like tons of comments and we will get into them in a bit. But also just making sure, like you said, you can't wait. Now is the time. It's already been time, but now we have a perfect opportunity to leverage what we have to begin to amplify those stories. And if you are an ally, look at what you can be doing to get behind Black creators and storytellers and business owners and entrepreneurs and founders, to help them share their story, to help get their products and services and their business in front of more people, because there's no secret that there is such a great disparity when it comes to what's available to us in terms of investment dollars, and especially if you're a woman,
Yeah.
on top of being a Black woman.
Yeah.
And so it's not easy to get film projects funded.
Mm-mm.
If you're back in the day and you watching a film or something with a family member or friend, and they kind of like, oh, that's low budget. Well, guess what? It might have been all the budget that they had to create it, but they created it and they put it out. And part of the reason why they have to do it that way is because there's no funding
It's about
available.
being scrappy though, too.
Yeah.
It's about being scrappy and being resourceful. And it's about, it's about really starting with the why and starting with the vision. Because that's all I had. That's all I had. I had a story I wanted to tell. And I really believed in my heart that that was the story that God wanted me to tell. I had lost a mentor to suicide. I was, really, really torn up about that. But I was also really, really moved by the fact that what was going to happen to her husband was, it was likely that he was going to have to leave his home, not by choice. It was likely that he might fall on financial ruin, not by choice. And it was all these questions that I had. And I really just wanted to tell this story. But I didn't have a team when I wanted to tell the story. All I had was the idea, and so I committed to writing it, and it was frustrating at times, and there were times I didn't think I could do it or finish it, or or that it would really happen, but it did. And it did because as I continued to move forward, then there were people who would like come alongside of me to help me and to be a part of my journey. And so most of those people charged me nothing, but they were excellent at their craft. So it doesn't even have to be like, oh, because I'm right out the gate, my stuff is trash. Like, there are a ton of people who are profoundly skilled who would be more than willing to help you, but you got to ask. And no, nobody's trying to always work for free. But I do have team members who sometimes they do stuff for me for free,